Welcome and thank you for joining us. Really special to kick this off. So thank you for being a part of that. All right, so what are we going to get through today? So we've just finished our welcome. I hope everyone feels welcome. We're going to go through the context, objectives, and structure of this training. I'm going to give you an introduction to BirdLife South Africa, which is my organization and the organization spearheading this project. Then we'll do our content for this first webinar, which is an introduction to Avitourism. We're going to keep things nice and broad and simple today, and we'll get into some of the real meat and drink in further episodes. But this is really to orientate you and give you some background information and a framework for the rest of the series. After that, we'll have a Q&A. And after that, we'll have the quiz link, which will be shared. And I'll explain the significance of the quizzes just now, and then we'll close. So I'm hoping to have this all wrapped up by 11 o'clock. If we don't quite make it before 11, I hope you won't mind. I hope the load shedding doesn't kick in. We had some very inconvenient load shedding yesterday. It seems to be back with a bit of a vengeance. So yes, a welcome to everyone here. This is session number 1 of our virtual Avitourism training for the garden route in Klein Karoo. These are throughout the presentation, I'll just scatter bird pictures. The pictures you see here were taken by 3 men, Mike Bridgeford, Bruce Ward-Smith, and Mike Buckham. So thank you to the 2 Mikes and Bruce for their wonderful images and loaning them to us for the use of this presentation. So yeah, here we have a Cape sugarbird on the bottom left, one of our endemics, and you're about to learn what endemic means if you don't know already. Here's a rufous-eared warbler and a Denham's bustard. So you'll also see that I've tried to vary the birds in terms of the habitats represented in the garden route in Klein Karoo. So this is a fynbos bird, a karoo bird, and a sort of agricultural and grassland bird. So you'll see on each of the slides, I've tried to add a little bit of diversity and flavor to everything that we do. So what is the context of this training? Why are we having it? And in what framework is this happening? So this is part of a broader tourism development project, which is taking place in the garden route in Klein Karoo. It's the garden route district municipality is our essential playing field. You see the wonderful map here from their tourism office. So this is the area bounded basically by Heidelberg and Witsundt in the west, and the Swartberg Mountains in the north. The ridge of the Swartberg Mountains, I think, forms the municipal boundary. Someone's very welcome to correct me in the comments if I've got that wrong. And then in the Eastern Cape on the eastern edge, obviously. And then you have this marine area, which is included as well. So a phenomenal part of the country, a part of the country I'm very passionate about. I grew up in Cape Town and spent a lot of time on the garden route, especially when I was working as a part-time professional bird guide. I used to take a lot of clients up onto the garden route to experience some of the wonders that you have down there. So for interest, I'm reporting here from Johannesburg, and it's a little bit drizzly and miserable here. So I hope it's better down wherever you are. So this course is designed as an introductory course for aspirant birding guides and to upskill the supply side of the market. So this project, I won't talk in detail to the rest of the project, but I will gladly send on our project summary documents to anyone who's interested to find out more if you didn't attend one of our workshops. But this course is basically an upskilling and awareness raising effort among the supply side of the market. So we have other parts of the project that are dealing with marketing the area to the market, international and domestic, through various means, magazines, social media, etc. But this is very much for people on the ground who are working in tourism, who have interests in tourism, who are just public citizens. And as I'll explain, this is not limited, but it is about creating that supply side skill and awareness. So as much as we can in 10 one-hour sessions, because this is a very niche sector and there's a lot to dig into. So these are the partners that have or are leading the project. I'm going to introduce BirdLife South Africa in depth now. That's who I represent. I'm the Avitourism project manager. Then we have In Toto Retreat. So In Toto is run by Roland Forvac and his partner in Sedgefield. It's a wonderful B&B establishment. Roland is our local activator on the ground, is our project partner, and he has a long history in tourism, working for the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, especially on their transfrontier conservation area tourism. So very glad to have Roland on board, and he's been a fantastic local help. Many of you will be familiar with him by now. He's an incredible networker. Then there's the Western Cape Government Economic Development and Tourism Department, who are funding the majority of this project. And then last but not least is the Groote Cluster Biosphere, who are supplying co-funding and are another local partner on the ground. So these are our project partners and who's leading this project in this area. So thank you to everyone for their fantastic support so far on this. So just before we kick off, if you can, I will put the link for this in the chat as well at the end of the webinar. But for now, if you've got your cell phone with you, if you could scan this QR code, just open up your photo app and point it at the QR code, and it should read automatically. We have a baseline survey for this project that we'd like everyone to fill in. It doesn't matter if you're a guide or if you're a tour operator or just a general interested citizen. These questions on here will help us to frame the second, third, and however many other phases there might be to this project. It'll also give us a really good idea of the needs on the ground and the levels of interest and activity. So if everyone on this call could fill this in at some point, that would be greatly appreciated. I'll also send this around in an email later. But yeah, for now, if you can just give that a quick scan, hopefully I've given you enough time to do that. So what are the objectives of this training? So two, basically, to generate interest and awareness about avitourism in the Garden Route and Klein Karoo, but even more specifically than that, to upskill existing and aspirant guides in birding. So some of you on the line are qualified tour guides. Some of you are interested in perhaps becoming a guide, and you want to know, what you need to know and how to do it. So this is going to give you a little bit of a better understanding of what the market looks like and how avitourism works in South Africa, and particularly in the Garden Route and Klein Karoo. So I hope this is useful. On the birding pictures front, on the left-hand side, we have an olive thrush, which is a very common garden bird and a bird of the forests as well. Dank, dark vegetation typically, or grassy lawns, where you'll see it picking up little worms, but this is the Cape version. You also get the Karoo thrush, which is a closely related bird that you find on the other side of the mountains in the drier areas. And then on the right-hand side is a very special little bird, a cinnamon-breasted warbler. You can see that ruddy cinnamon-colored breast, which this is a resident of dry Karoo scree slopes, bouldery slopes, and very, very sought after by birders because it's incredibly elusive and difficult to find. So what this training is not, I think there are a few misunderstandings potentially with some of you, so I just want to clear this up. This is not an accredited training course. I know this was distributed by some FOGASA listings, some mailing list for FOGASA, which is the Field Guides Association of South Africa. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that there's no NQF rating attached to this. There's no work standards. This is purely just a course being done for public benefit by BirdLife South Africa. Again, it's not a paid course, but just to clear that up, you're not going to be able to claim this as a qualification, although we are going to be issuing certificates of participation. Then it's not an exhaustive birding course. There's only so much we can cover in 10 sessions of an hour each, especially with our focus on avitourism rather than just birds and birding. So that needs to be acknowledged. It's not limited to guides only. We have a diverse range of people on the call, and we encourage that. We want to get as many people aware and interested in birds and avitourism and getting involved. And the more people that are aware, the more fertile the ground is for this to really take off in the area. And it's not exclusive or restricted. So although we are going to be focusing on the Garden Route and the Klein Karoo, we do welcome participants from anywhere. We have a cap of 500 people on our Zoom webinar licenses. So anyone that wants to know more or get involved is very welcome to do so wherever you are or whoever you are. So I'm very glad to see we have some international participation in Africa and even further afield. Some from outside of our municipality area, from the Eastern Cape, from Cape Town, from Gauteng. So you're all very, very welcome, although the focus of this will be on the garden route and the Klein Karoo, or as everyone in the Karoo keeps telling me, the Klein Karoo and the garden route, depending which way you look at it. So what is the structure of this training? We've got 10 one-hour webinars. Oh, sorry, I didn't mention the bird. Some of you will be shouting at your screen. This is a white-starred robin. The white star refers to the little white patch in front of the eye, and it's obviously got its chick with it there. So the chick is told by the sort of speckledy feathers, the fleshy gape, which is the area around the base of the beak. So this is an adult bird, probably with its chick in tow, begging for some food. And this is a resident of very dark, damp forest. So what is the structure of this training? So we've got 10 one-hour webinars. They're going to take place from today, every Monday and Thursday, from 10 to 11 until the 30th of November. So we've got a month of webinars, 5 weeks, 2 webinars a week equals 10 webinars. There will be a lecture from a presenter and a Q&A for every webinar. So although you don't have to watch these live, we do encourage you to, because it allows you to engage with the other participants and to ask questions. And then at the end of every webinar, very importantly, there's a link given to the quiz. So the quiz is the way that we're going to monitor who's tuned in. The Zoom attendee reports are not as reliable, and we also have multiple people watching to a screen. So we need a way of making sure that we capture everyone that has participated in this webinar. So there is a very easy and uncomplicated quiz that we will provide the link to at the end of this. It'll only count towards your credit of actually participating in this webinar if you complete the quiz. Okay, so make sure that you do complete all the quizzes. The recordings will be made available, as I said, but do try and attend live as well. So they will be available on YouTube. If you just search BirdLife South Africa on YouTube, you'll find our channel there, and we'll set up a playlist with each of these webinars. So by the end of it, there'll be 10 info-packed webinars for you to watch and gain from. We'll have a mid-December cutoff, so we'll run these, like I said, until the end of November, and we'll give everyone a further 2 weeks to complete all the quizzes and to catch up on the webinars that you've missed. After that, we'll cut it off, and we'll start issuing the certificates of attendance. These require 50% participation, so you need to have participated and filled in at least 5 of the quizzes. You don't have to attend 5 live. We're not going to measure it on that basis. You have to fill in the quizzes. And then after that, very excitingly for those of you that haven't heard already, those that do participate in at least 50% of these webinars will be eligible to book an in-person experience to follow in January and February 2024. We'll keep everyone abreast of those arrangements. We have guides set up in stations all over the district, from the nether reaches of the Klein Karoo to the popular coastal towns of the Garden Route and everywhere in between. So those will be fantastic. The idea behind those is that you go out with an experienced guide or birder, and they take you into one of the popular locations, show you some of the special birds, and give you an idea of how to guide birders. So those of you who are interested in potentially getting into this, whether it's on the supply side as an accommodation or as a birding guide, or a tourist guide who wants to just add birding as an extra layer to what you do, this is a fantastic free opportunity for you to benefit off that experience that's being put forward. So I hope to see many of you participating in that. So make sure that you fill in your quizzes. The schedule of this training is as follows. I mentioned the 10 webinars. These are our topics. They may shift around depending on the presenter availability, but today is Introduction to Avitourism. On Thursday, we have a guest lecture from Lance Robinson on basic bird identification, and I'll supplement that as well. Then on the next Monday, we have birding equipment, apps, social media, and information sources. So this will be about all the tools you need to get involved in avitourism, whether it's marketing yourself as a birding destination or as a birding guide. Then a dedicated one next Thursday to birding terminology. So there's a whole new language you need to learn. You've already heard some of the terms thrown around, like endemic, that birders speak. So we're going to be going into a deep dive in the birding dictionary next week, Thursday. On the 13th, we launched the first of our 5 sort of featured birds webinars, if I can call them that. So these will be webinars that go through specific species that can be found in the garden route and Klein Karoo, how to identify them, what's significant about them, etc. And we've grouped those in sensible ways. So the first one is the common birds that are found all over the garden route in Klein Karoo. These will be a lot of the birds that you find in your gardens. Then the birds of the Klein Karoo, the special birds, birds of the forest, birds of estuaries and freshwater, and birds of other habitats. And then the last webinar will be on how to guide birders. So how to set up a bird watching trip, how to market yourself as a guide, what birding clients are looking for, how to interact with people, how to deal with difficult clients. And we've got a very special guest for that one, Dr. Dan Dankwitz from Rock Jumper Birding, who is an international bird guide, one of the best in the world. So that will be certainly finishing off with a bang. So that's what we have in store for you. And I hope we'll see you at each of these 10 webinars going forward. So let's get into the presentation a bit for this webinar. So we have an introduction to BirdLife South Africa. As I mentioned, that's the organization that I work for. We are a non-governmental conservation organization. We're based in Johannesburg, and this is our team. So we have about 35 staff. In this photograph, there are 16 PhDs. So we have a very highly qualified staff who look after birds in their habitats. This includes both our business or administration division and our conservation division. So we are an NGO, PBO, and NPO, so public benefit organization and non-profit organization, which was established in 1996. It grew out of the old South African Ornithologists Union. We have offices in Johannesburg and Cape Town. Our Cape Town office is brand new. We have an open day for the office next week. So for those of you in Cape Town, make sure to come and join us. I think it's on Thursday. And we have satellite staff across the country as well. So we have even a staff member in Van Wyksdorp, of all places. So those of you tuning in from Van Wyksdorp, Sam Ralston Payton, who I'm sure you've seen around, is a member of BirdLife South Africa's staff. We are a local and regional leader in the conservation of birds and their habitats. We have an empowering people program that uses birds as a tool to upskill people, diversify livelihoods, and create jobs. And that's why we have a tourism project. So primarily we are a conservation NGO. I actually started off in the organization working on African penguins in Cape Town, and then transitioned to take over our tourism projects. And I think importantly, the tourism projects are not there to create tour itineraries. I don't guide people on tours, but we use tourism and birds as a tool to grow conservation support, because you'll never care about anything that you don't first relate to or love. So this is a way to grow more people's awareness and appreciation of birds, and also to empower local communities to benefit from the tourism economy and to own that space. So this is our structure at the moment. We have 7 programs. We have 2 supporting programs. I hope you can see my mouse. Science, innovation, and policy and advocacy. Our regional conservation program deals with our partners outside of South Africa's borders. Obviously, birds transcend borders. They don't understand political borders. So we need to work with partners all along, for example, migratory flyways to make sure that birds are protected. And then on this side, we have our seabird conservation program, fairly self-explanatory. Landscape conservation, which looks after habitats of birds and landowner engagement and stewardship. And then species conservation, working on particularly threatened species and the threats that they face. And then our empowering people team, who really knits all this together by bringing that human aspect to everything that we do. So yeah, that's where our Avitourism project falls in under the Empowering People program. And that's why the Conservation NGO has an Avitourism project in the first place. So the Avitourism project has many facets. I'm lucky to oversee a number of sub-projects, I guess you could call them. Some of them include the community bird guides, the South Africa Listers Club, our Go Birding website, which is featured on the right-hand side here. If you haven't yet heard of the Go Birding website, I would encourage you to go have a look, but we will also touch on this in the Tools of the Trade webinar I think it's next Monday. SANSAB, which is South African Names for South African Birds, a really feel-good project, making sure that all South Africans have names for birds in their home languages, which currently is not the case, unless you're in English, Afrikaans, or recently Zulu, which we completed the list for last year. And then marketing and development, which is really where our current project falls, making sure that both the supply and demand sides of Avitourism markets are met and encouraged and stimulated. So I have a rather unique catalytic role to play in the national tourism sector. So what is Avitourism? So firstly, it's really defined as travel to view birds in their natural habitat, or to view wild birds in their natural habitat. It doesn't include things like going into an aviary or sanctuary style of thing. It's very much to see wild birds, although those can be complementary experiences sometimes. It is a very well established niche. So when I say niche, it doesn't mean that there are very few people that do it, or that it's small or insignificant. It just means that it's a very specific interest, and has a very specific interest group that attends to it. But it is very well established in international and local markets. People love birds, and that community is large and widespread. It can be very lucrative for a number of reasons, which I'll talk about. Firstly, is that the demographics are skewed towards older and wealthier people. This is a stigma that I think persists around birding, it being an old person's thing to do, or something you pick up when you retire. But this is something that is actually being quite strongly challenged in the local sense, at least. There really is a growing wave of young birders. And I've invited a young birder who's present on the garden route, Justin Ponder. Justin, if you are there, you can start turning on your video and unmuting yourself. Justin is a recipient of a BirdLife South Africa Owlet Award to recognize his contributions to birding and bird conservation as a young person. He's also going to be delivering a number of the future webinars on the bird ID aspects around the garden route area, and he's also helping us with revising the Go Birding website for the garden route. So Justin, if you are willing, can you just give us a couple of minutes, introduce yourself, tell us a bit about why you as a young person are involved in birding, and how young people are organizing themselves, what they're interested in, and how this whole young wave of birders is coming through.
Yeah, no, thanks, Andrew, for having me. It's as you say, birding is almost always generally skewed towards the older demographic, but I discovered at quite a young age that that is just not true. So birding is often seen as something that's quite slow, somewhat quite boring, but I mean, I've had many experience where I've run and I've been stressed. I've woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning to go look for birds. So it's definitely not something you do if you want to calm down sometimes. And the community of young birders has also grown tremendously. I think the internet has definitely helped with that. It's brought everyone a lot closer together. So I'm part of a huge community of over 400 young birders. And I think the nice part of the community is that it inspires each other basically to go out birding, and it gives each other motivation. So there's many different challenges, if I can say that you face as a young birder, but we take hold of those challenges and motivate each other to push through them. And there's been already a number of birding competitions that have been set up for young birders, and it's all just quite exciting for us.
Awesome. Thanks, Justin. Would you say young people are more interested in just getting out into nature? Are they interested in adding to their lists? Are they driven by photography? How do you think young people align with those different motivations?
There's definitely a draw card, especially with photography. I think that's a big interest in young birders. But what I would say is probably the biggest interest in young birders is actually the competition and the
Mm.
competitive side of birding. So everyone is trying to up their lists, get better photographs, and I think that is also a huge inspiration to young birders.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us, Justin. For those of you that have questions for Justin, you can use the Q&A box. He'll be sitting along with the rest of the webinar, but we'll get to some questions at the end. So if you have some for Justin, just pop those in the Q&A box next to the chat box on your Zoom controls. So we had Pat Nurse on the call, but I think she's just dropped off, so we'll wait for Pat to come back. Pat is the chair of the Lakes Bird Club, and I was hoping she'd tell us a little bit about how bird clubs contribute to avitourism, but let's see if she drops back on or she comes back on. For now, I'll just get back to my presentation. So I was mentioning that demographics are skewed towards older and wealthier people. For the international market, that certainly seems to be quite true, especially in terms of who's traveling to destinations like the Garden Route. So we can make really good use of that. I think those of you that run accommodations or other establishments always like to see that there are wealthy demographics partaking in your tourism niches. It does mean hopefully a little bit few more rands in the bank. So yes, it is a group that is high value to the tourism market, and it intersects very well with other forms of tourism. So for instance, the Garden Route has spectacular scenic tourism, also has all sorts of other nature tourism, botanical tourism, etc. And birding can be a wonderful layer that's added on to that, as well as what's already being offered. So we're certainly not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater or expecting that birds should come to dominate the tourism offering of the Garden Route and the Klein Karoo. Absolutely not. We're adding a complementary additional layer of diversity to what is already an incredibly rich offering in this area. So this does intersect very, very well. Those of you who are guides will know that sometimes it's difficult to find things to talk about. And in many cases, there will always be a bird around. So if you know your birds, you can keep your guests entertained, even in the dullest moments or the heat of the day. There will always be something to talk about. All right. In terms of what avitourism can offer, if it's done properly or correctly or optimally, local community benefit. So this is something that BirdLife South Africa has really pioneered, but it can create local jobs and revenue, and it's something that we're hoping to do in secondary phases of this project that we're currently running. There can be conservation benefit, and I know there are a few Cape Nature and Sandpark staff on the call, and you will know how important tourism can be in terms of supporting and justifying conservation efforts, bringing value to these areas, but also getting local people more aware of the importance of conserving those areas because of these tourism assets that they have nearby. Infrastructure, it often brings with it things like hides, boardwalks, gives you a reason to maintain infrastructure. Apologies for the email sounds coming through. It's people registering late for this this series. So good on you for getting the registrations in time. All right, and then tourism diversification. I've spoken a bit now about how avitourism can fit into the rich, diverse offering that is already there. And then it's eco-friendly and low impact. So avitourism typically takes place in small groups. If you have big groups of birders, you're going to struggle to get everyone to see the same bird. Birds can be quite flighty, can be quite, they only offer you a small glimpse or a window to see them in. So you want to have a small group, keep your impact low, keep your sound levels low. And as a result, it's generally an eco-friendly way to go about enjoying nature, which is wonderful. It's non-consumptive. So what does avitourism look like in South Africa? Well, we have nearly 900 bird species in South Africa. We have about 880 species. It's about 8% of the world's total diversity, which is pretty incredible. If you think about us being the country at the southern tip of Africa, to have 8% of the world's total diversity is really incredible. In terms of the endemic species, we have 69 endemic and near endemic species. So endemic is an important word in birding parlance. Endemic means that a bird is found nowhere else. It's unique to that area. Endemic birds can be common birds or rare birds. They are sometimes threatened, sometimes not. So By logic, they are obviously naturally occurring if they are restricted to an area, but we call those birds indigenous. So you can have indigenous birds that are non-endemic. Example might be the barn swallow, which migrates all the way to Europe, but it is naturally found in South Africa in the austral summer. So that would be an indigenous bird that's not an endemic. And then you have endemic birds that are unique to South Africa, and we've had a few of them on the slides already, like the Cape sugarbird that I showed you, like the yellow canary. And a near endemic bird is one that has at least 70% of its breeding population in South Africa. Obviously, we have the very unique situation of Lesotho being, enclaved within South Africa. We share a lot of birds with Lesotho for obvious reasons. So a lot of those birds that are in the Drakensberg and restricted to the Drakensberg, we call them Drakensberg endemics, but they're near endemics to South Africa, since we do share them with Lesotho. And we also share some of our birds with other neighboring countries. But to have 69 species that are found nowhere else in the world makes us a very attractive birding destination. Our national bird is on the screen here. That's the blue crane. It's an incredible feat to try and choose one bird out of nearly 900 bird species to be our national representative. This bird, I think, is a good selection for a few reasons. Firstly, it's obviously beautiful. It's easily recognizable because it's large and iconic. It's got these really wonderfully soft-looking velvety feathers and these beautiful long black tail feathers, and it uses these to great effect in its courtship dances. So it's got some interesting behaviors as well. And then it's also culturally relevant. The Xhosa chiefs in the Eastern and Western Cape wear this bird's feather in the ceremonial crown. And Xhosa warriors, when they were the absolute alpha males of society, used to get this bird's feathers weaved into their hair if they had particularly amazing feats in battle. So yeah, a really interesting example of an endemic species, well, near endemic species. There are a small population of these in Etosha in Namibia as well, but the majority of their population is found here in South Africa. So endemic species are particularly attractive for birders. They're certainly motivated to come and see them. Because they are restricted to an area, and there are quite a number of these in the Garden Route and Klenkuru area. I think just over 50 of the 69 endemics can be found within the district. So that gives you an idea of how attractive a destination this can be for birders to visit. If we have people who can show people where they are and they have the knowledge, and that people actually know that all these birds occur here. So that's exactly what we're trying to work on today. So in terms of avitourism in South Africa and actually trying to get into some of the nitty-gritty statistics, there was a report published by Department of Trade and Industry, which predated the Department of Tourism. That's why they did this report. Tourism was part of their mandate. And they looked at all the different niches of tourism in South Africa: culinary tourism, geotourism, avitourism, and others. And they published this study. So they found that it is a well-developed form of ecotourism in South Africa. It has a strong supporting infrastructure and economy. Obviously, South Africa is well set up for nature-based and ecotourism. So we can sort of tap into that, the infrastructure from roads to accommodations to parks and reserves to support avitourism. We have a fairly mature market and profile. We have international and domestic markets, which are fairly healthy and growing. Our major market hubs are the USA, Europe, and Australia. So this is where the most concentrated markets are into South Africa. There are obviously people that visit from elsewhere, but these are the dominant market segments in South Africa. Excuse me. Then we are also a valuable tourism niche. So in that 2010 study, they estimated the annual contribution to the country's GDP of avitourism at, 2.25 billion rand. So that's about 4.5 billion rand in today's terms. which is really, really incredible. And I think, given the growth in the interest in birds and birding, especially post-pandemic, we're likely to be underestimating that grossly. So I'm in talks with the Department of Tourism at the moment nationally to put together a new survey along these lines and work out exactly what the market looks like. So hopefully we'll have results of that in the not too distant future. I think the most important finding from that entire report, and the one that really piqued the interest of government, is that Avitourists, compared to any other tourists in South Africa, spend more, stay longer in country, and travel wider than any other tourist classes. So birding has an incredible ability to draw people to rural areas, to areas not currently featured in sort of the mainstream tourism offering of South Africa. So you can have, a strong pull to an area like Van Wyksdorp if you find a particularly restricted or rare or interesting bird that people will travel, will want to see. Then they will travel to see that bird and they'll come visit you in Van Wyksdorp, and that applies across the whole district. Okay, so we've just had Pat Nurse rejoin. Pat, are you there? I see she's just connecting to her audio. So, hello, Pat. I see you're back. Are you with us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Sorry, we've had no electricity since 10 o'clock last night and everything seems to be going haywire. And my computer froze on Justin. Do you want me to talk now?
Yeah, if you could, Pat. So I'll just introduce you quickly. If you can just turn your video on in the meantime. So, Pat.
My screen's gone black again.
There we go.
And my inverter may be going on strike. No, here we are again.
All right. So Pat is the chair of the Lakes Bird Club. She's also a recent awardee of our Owl Awards at BirdLife South Africa for her contributions to birds, birding, and bird conservation. So I've just invited Pat after Justin just to talk about the role that bird clubs play in organizing the local avitourism market, what they get up to, and the role that they play generally, but also specifically in the garden route. So over to you for a couple of minutes, Pat.
Can you see me?
I can see you well, and I can see your lovely bird posters in the background.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Pat Nurse. I'm chairman of the Lakes Bird Club. The Lakes Bird Club was started 35 years ago in Sedgefield, and it has expanded and it covers Knysna, Sedgefield, Wilderness, George, and then we do have a few members between George and Mossel Bay. There is a small informal group in Little Brack, but that is mostly Afrikaans language people. And as you can hear, I'm not Afrikaans speaking. There's also a club in Plettenberg Bay who hold regular meetings and have regular speakers. You can get all the details of how to join our club and Plet from Andrew's Go Birding website. We are affiliated to BirdLife South Africa. We have just under 200 members. And Justin is one of our star youngsters. We were so pleased when Justin and Mark joined our club about 4 years ago as young birders. And they are absolutely excellent. They outstrip most of us older people because their hearing is so acute and they know all their birds so well. And we have an outing on the first Saturday of every month, except January, which is no good with all the tourists in the garden route. And then something on the third Thursday of the month. That's normally just a morning outing. The Saturday ones are inclined to last most of the day. In winter, June, July, and August, because the weather can be unreliable, we have talks instead of outings on the Thursday at St. Francis Church Hall in Sedgefield, which is central to the area. A lot of our members take part in water bird surveys on the lagoon and various other water bodies in the garden route, and also car counts, which are of large birds and raptors in the Klein Karoo. I think that's just about all that I can say. That I hope gives you an idea. And we welcome any new members. You don't have to be an expert. We've got a lot of good birders in our club. We're only too happy to help beginners and help with them with identification. Okay, is that enough, Andrew?
That's perfect. Thank you, Pat. So just like with Justin, everyone, if you have questions for Pat, use that Q&A box and you can ask her in there, and we'll get to that at the end of the webinar if Pat stays with us. Otherwise, I'm sure Justin can help with answering those questions as well. So thanks, Pat. You are welcome to turn your video off and mute as well. So just to encourage everyone, if you are interested in learning more, if you're a beginner or someone starting out, do go and find out if you have a local bird club. Pat mentioned Grootbrak, the Lakes, and Plet. So there are other groups in Stilbaai, groups in Oudtshoorn. So find out who your local people are, go join them, go on outings. You'll learn a lot from them, and they're also a very important network in terms of Avitourism and getting the word out there about what service providers exist, whether you are guides or accommodation. So I would encourage you to go and engage with your local bird club. All right, back to the presentation at hand. We talked about Avitourism in South Africa and how valuable it is. So let's zoom in a bit onto the garden route then. So here we have an incredible diversity of birds. I mentioned we have just under 900 birds in South Africa. Well, in the garden route in Klein Karoo, or the garden route district, we have over 450 species that have been recorded here. So that is an incredible stat, an incredible amount of diversity to have in one restricted area of the country. And there's, I think, mainly because of the incredible diversity of habitats. If you think of the difference in the landscape between that lush coastal forest belt along the garden route to the Langeberg and the Swartberg mountains, and then in between that dry, arid Klein Karoo, and everything in between, from urban to agriculture to grasslands to fynbos. There's really an incredible diversity of habitats on offer. So yes, 450 different species, which makes it incredibly attractive, and they're all within striking distance of a few major travel hubs, of course. There's well-established scenic and ecotourism, and I talked about how well birding can add to this as a layer, but also intersect with it in terms of making use of existing infrastructure, existing marketing, advertising, etc. I mentioned the major travel hubs. So for the local and international market, this is a very accessible area to travel. The infrastructure is very good. And I think the real crux of the problem at the moment, and that which you're trying to remedy, is that the area is not well known or marketed for birding. And if I can add to that, that is true of both the supply and the demand side. So I mentioned early on, and when I was going through the objectives of this webinar, is to help boost the supply side awareness and skill level related to this incredibly lucrative and wonderful niche of tourism. So once people know about it, you can start to speak about it, and then we can start getting bums and beds and people into the area and attract the birders. So what motivates birders? What makes people travel to see birds? Firstly, I neglected again to mention the species on the screen. So this is a Knysna turako. It used to be known as a Knysna luri. It is still called a Knysna luri in Afrikaans. I think it's a Knysna luri. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. And this is one of the enigmatic and iconic birds of the Knysna forests. Something that people will really enjoy seeing. Obviously, this incredible splash of color, a very charismatic bird, a very noisy bird. The Zulu name for these luris or turakos is Iguala Guala, and that sort of is onomatopoeic of the name of the call. Sorry. So yeah, very cool birds to see. Very interesting pigments. It's very rare in birds to have true red and true green pigments, but this bird is one of very, very few that has that. Turisan and Turako verdin are the two pigments that are found in this bird, but let me not wax too lyrical on individual species. So what motivates birders? Why will they travel? Well, to see things like a Knysna turako. but also just to enjoy nature and get outdoors. I think birders are, every one of them are birders, but also interested in general aspects of nature and enjoy being outside and outdoors. This is not a pursuit for someone who enjoys sitting indoors with headphones on in front of a computer all day. This is people who like to get outside, enjoy the fresh air, enjoy natural settings, and enjoy watching nature unfold and learning more about the incredible natural world. They obviously enjoy beautiful, rare, and unique birds. We talked about endemics and how important they are to the offering of the area and what people will travel to see. So that sort of is classed under the unique birds, if they're unique to an area. People enjoy particularly beautiful birds like that Turako. They enjoy particularly rare species like that cinnamon-breasted warbler, which to many of you will not look like much, but to a birder is incredibly sought after. And then the unique birds. So here's a unique bird on the top right. This is a Victorins warbler. This is an incredibly good photograph from, I think it's Bruce Ward Smith's photograph of this very skulking and reclusive and elusive species. They have a very distinct call, which is very easy to hear in these sort of sloped valleys in the fynbos areas and they go around this dense vegetation and you can hear them, but you almost never see them. So to get a view like this is quite incredible. And this is restricted to the fynbos biome. It's one of the 6 fynbos endemic species. So people will have this on their lists to target when they visit anywhere with fynbos. And then on the bottom is the little yellow-throated woodland warbler, which has a wonderful little cheery mellifluous song, really melodic and lovely whistling tune. It's found in the upper canopies of forests. So it's a tiny little bird. And to get it at eye level like this is a little bit misleading, because usually they are a silhouetted speck at the top of the forest. But again, very sought after by birders. So birders like to add new birds to their lists. Not all birders are listers. Many people sort of lean more towards just the enjoyment of nature and aren't so worried about seeing new birds. But many birders, and Justin mentioned the competitive aspect, enjoy adding and building their lists. So birders do keep different lists, and we're going to go through this in the birding terminology webinar as well. But birders will keep a life list. A new species for their list is called a lifer, and their lists could be a list for their garden through to a list for the world. Some people keep lists for the year. I like to always try and see more than 400 species a year, and I've managed to do that for 6 or 7 years, I think now. And yeah, people keep all sorts of different lists. So we'll go through that in detail, but it's certainly one of the motivations for birders to add to those lists and keep building them. And then I mentioned that this is a hobby or a pursuit for people who enjoy being outdoors and enjoying nature and fresh air. And that comes with pretty significant mental and physical health benefits. And there's even been studies where, apart from just getting outside and getting a bit of exercise, even just looking at birds for a short amount of time was found to have calming and mental health benefits, being shown slides of birds in their natural habitat. So an interesting study. But birds do seem to be a wonderful conduit for people to connect with nature and have all the wonderful health benefits that do come with that. It also intersects very nicely with wellness tourism, which is really growing a lot on the Garden Route and into the Glen Karoo. Various retreats, various Camino-style hikes being set up, the Wellness Way being led by Groot's Cluster Biosphere Reserve is being developed. So birding is a lovely layer to add onto that, being able to sit there, be very present, listen to birds' song in the morning with the dawn chorus, and it all intersects beautifully with wellness. So another attractive prospect for Avitourism. So we're coming close to the end here, and I'm glad because we're coming close to our hour as well. But how can we leverage Avitourism? There are different stakeholders in the room, and it's going to be a different answer for each of you. But I think the main thing to bear in mind is that the birding or Avitourism market is a bit of a pyramid. At the top of the pyramid, you have the absolute nutcase birders who are just hunting everything for their list. They have to see absolutely everything at all costs. They know a lot. They're very experienced. They're willing to spend a lot of money to see birds, and they require quite a different kind of guiding to other, quite a different service, guiding and accommodation and other ways to other people. But they are very much at the apex of that pyramid, and there's a limited market for that. As you move down the pyramid, you move towards your ecotourism markets, and that's where I'm saying that birding can add that nice layer to people who are already traveling to see natural aspects. They are already interested, they're primed for this kind of tourism. And if you can add this knowledge base to what you're offering as an ecotourism operator, this is a very, very strong proposition. And then at the bottom of the base, we just have all the other people that are traveling for other types of tourism. So there are many people who just come to the garden route to relax. They go to the Klein Karoo for the wide open spaces and just to disconnect, and connecting rather with birds than being online in that connection sense, can be a wonderful added experience for them, something that they've never tapped into before, never considered, but something that you have incredible assets in the garden route to make use of. So why not make use of those if they're available? So just to bear that in mind when you're thinking about how you in your specific capacity and context are going to be plugging into this wonderful niche, just bear this market triangle in mind. So that's it from me for our first webinar. We have about 5 minutes left for some Q&A. I'll welcome any questions in the Q&A box. There aren't any there just yet. There's also Justin still online. I see Pat has dropped off, but Justin is an active member of the Lakes Bird Club, so he can surely answer some of those questions as well. So I'll give us a couple of minutes just to get questions up and running. And then while we're waiting for those questions, just to give you the quiz link. So hopefully this QR code works. If it doesn't, let me know. But scan the QR code for the quiz. I'll send a follow-up email to everyone who registered for this webinar and attended, with the actual URL link that you can click if you're not so happy using QR codes. Please do fill in your details accurately because we need to credit you for this. So please always use the same email address, for instance. Don't just give an alias or something like that, because it's not going to count towards your name. We need to keep a track of this in the background. So make sure you fill those in accurately. Just to temper any nerves or expectations, the score is not as important as participating. The quiz is set up that you can learn from it. If you give a wrong answer, it will indicate the right answer and hopefully give you a little bit of insight, depending on the question, on why that answer was wrong or why the correct answer is as it is. And then just a quick reminder before we do finish that you need to complete at least 5 quizzes by mid-December to be eligible to receive a certificate of participation from BirdLife South Africa, and also to book for those in-person experiences throughout the Garden Route District. Okay, so this is the first webinar. It's been very broad and the quiz is very easy. I hope you all agree. But I hope you did learn something interesting. You've got an idea now of what Avitourism is and how it works, and who's involved, and some of the mechanisms and motivations that make up this absolutely wonderful niche tourism sector. So I see there's a question from Dawn Berry. Thank you for the question, Dawn. And she has asked, is there a recommended birding app for the Klein Karoo area as beginners? Wonderful question. Thank you. We will get onto apps in the next webinar, I think it is. But for now, I would say there are quite a number of apps available on the South African market. Some of them are very well known. They're linked to the birding field guides, things like Roberts, like Cecil Birds of Southern Africa. If you aren't willing to splurge on a paid app, I think the best other option is the Merlin Bird app. It's run by Cornell University, MERLIN, like the wizard, but also like the falcon species that's found in the US. They have a birding pack for South Africa that you can download in English or in Afrikaans, It has all the birds of South Africa. It's a really phenomenal app, and it's free, so you don't have to pay for it, which is a really nice, dip your toe into the world of birding. So that's an option. If you want to keep your lists, if you want to keep a bird list, I recommend Bird Lasser. This is another free to download app. It's not an identification or field guide app. It's more about keeping your lists and participating in different challenges. So that's quite a good one to have as well. And you can start building your lists for different areas and participating in those challenges. Some of the other apps out there, Bird Pro and Firefinch, are different from the others in that they have a subscription model instead of a once-off paid amount. So there's pros and cons to that, which I won't go into too much more benefit. Maybe I'll ask Justin. Justin, did I miss any apps that people should look into getting ahead of the next webinar? What do you think, and what do you use?
I think you've pretty much covered it, Andrew. For bird identification, a very good one to use as well is stuff like Firefinch and Roberts. But as Andrew said, we'll get into that further in a different webinar.
Awesome. Cool. All right. I don't see any other questions as such. Just checking the chat box. There's a question from Jenny about bird clubs in the Garden Route area besides the Lakes Bird Club. So there is BirdLife Plettenberg Bay. Then those are the two affiliated to BirdLife South Africa in the area, Lakes Bird Club and BirdLife Plettenberg Bay. And then there are several other unaffiliated smaller clubs in Grootbroek, in Stilbaai, the U3A club over there. And then there's also, that I know of at least, a small club or group of people in Oudtshoorn in the Klein Karoo. So hopefully that helps with that. Kayla says the QR works. Thank you. That's a relief. You never know with technology if things are going to work out. All right. So thank you for everyone popping a message in the chat. I really appreciate it. I'm glad you think we got off to a very good start. There is another question here from Deirdre Marcus. Thanks for the question, Deirdre. She says, is there an app for identifying birds by their calls? So there isn't currently an app that allows you to sort of play a bird call to an app and it'll identify it, sort of like a Shazam, if you're familiar with that one for music, where you just hold your phone up and it listens and it tells you what it's listening to. They are developing that for the USA and Europe at the moment. It's very difficult because birds have such wide-ranging and different calls. So that is developing, but it's not available in South Africa just yet. The best way to learn your bird calls is to actually just get out in the field, see the bird, listen to the call, go to the app, look at the features, play the call on the app to yourself, and just reinforce that identification. So that's the easiest way to do it. The other, or possibly the best way to do it, is to go out with more experienced birders. So, get yourself onto a bird club outing, or find someone who's interested in birds and say, can I join you for a morning or something like that? And they will point out some of the calls to you that you've no doubt been hearing all your life in your garden and elsewhere. And then you'll start picking up, exactly what birds those are. It's a wonderful world, bird calls, that people are a bit sound blind, sound deaf, I guess is the right way to put it. But they're completely unaware until you actually point it out. And then there's this amazing world that opens up to everyone. All right, wonderful, everyone. Thank you. We've hit 11 o'clock. I'm going to jump off now. I will post this recording on YouTube, hopefully very soon. I hope you've all enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful and accessible. And I hope we see you again on Thursday, same time and same place. I'll send a link for Thursday's webinar by the end of tomorrow. So watch out for that. Thanks, everyone, and cheers.